All right, here we go. Right on the money at 11 o'clock. So welcome to all of our new members. I know I've been talking about joining up with the Alignable team here for a long time. So we have some new Alignable members to the group. So welcome to everybody. And because of that, and also because I think a lot of people never really started at the beginning, I think I want to go back to the beginning and give you guys like the perfect fresh start to get the most out of this. So one of the things I want to do is kind of cover the whole ACT program, all the pieces. I know a lot of people jump in, they get really excited and they want to get into creation, but there's a lot of pieces prior to that that are really, really important. And it will make the difference between success and struggle. So I think it's really important that you look at the pieces in the order that they come. So I'm going to share screen here and show you guys. I've created some stuff for you. So give me just a second here. Okay, here we go. So this is basically a graphical representation of the three pieces of ACT. So in the analysis, we start with the market segments. You'll notice a lot of you guys love the avatar conversation. It's in the third step of the process. So there's some really important stuff that you have to do first. And the first one is market segmentation. And if you don't know what that is perfectly okay because everything is completely outlined. I go through like step by step the process of how to do all of this stuff. But just in brief, what market segmentation is, everybody has products and services that can serve a multitude of people. In fact, in some cases, a multitude of markets. But it doesn't mean that you want to or should try and serve everybody, because it can literally eat you alive, especially if you're a small business owner. If you're a small business owner, you have to be very, very careful, very protective of your time, because you can literally get eaten alive. If you go into too many markets, and especially not profitable markets, I'm going to share some slides here that I made that's actually in the training, but I think it's important that you really get the concept of this. So I'm going to go over those next. But this market segmentation is really important. And when you're segmenting the markets, it's basically all the different types of people. Like I'll give you just a perfect example here. Real estate. Real estate has two big segments. It's buyers and sellers, right? So if you just cut it down the middle, you'd have two segments. But that's not the end of it. Let's go to the section of the buyers. You can segment that section down, and you might have buyers that are single moms just trying to keep a roof over their kids' heads. That's a particular segment of that market. You might have the growing family that wants to move out into the country and get a big, sprawling estate, so their kids can have horses and what have you. That's a segment of the market. Another segment is the bachelor. He's looking for a bachelor pad. These are very different people. So when you come to the avatar, that's where these segments, your avatars are going to come out of the segments. And before you do the avatar, you want to make sure you're focused on the most profitable segment. Not to say that you can't serve all the segments, because you could, but you'll see, after you get a little bit into this, you're going to see you don't want to. You really don't want to. You want to focus, and I know there's a lot of people that have big hearts, and I'm one of them. I love to give back. But what I see very commonly is big-hearted people want to give up front on the front when they don't really have to give. If you're going to be a philanthropist, you have to get wealthy first. That's the only way you can do it. So the only way in business to do that is to focus on profit. Business is all about that profit. So I think you guys kind of get the idea of the segments. You have to break up, and you probably, in any given business, you might have, anywhere from 3 on the small side to maybe 50 to 100 segments in your market. So really important you do that first. And then once you have all the segments, it's kind of like buckets. These are buckets of people, prospects, customers. You lay them all out, and then you start identifying, okay, which of these buckets is going to be the most profitable? There's going to be a lot of your buckets that have people in it that those market segments don't have any money. They don't have the money to pay for your products. So you don't want to spend your time and your efforts and your money to market to them. You can't do it. You won't be profitable. And then once you figure out, what are your most profitable buckets, then you can dive into that bucket and figure out who your avatar is. And at that point, you move into competitor analysis and you see, okay, how are my competitors selling into this bucket? And you can learn an awful lot from your competitors. You don't have to create the wheel. You don't have to spend all of your own money to learn all those lessons. You can learn that from your competitors and let them advance you to that level. So that's the analysis part. That's the A. And of the whole program, of the ACT program, the A is probably, I would recommend you spend 50% of your time here before you move into creation. It really is important because all the stuff that you learn here is going to move down, and you're going to almost copy and paste it into here. It's going to make this really easy. And this is, a lot of people struggle with this. They jump into creation. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to convey their value because they didn't do the analysis work. They don't know what's important to the person that they're selling to. They haven't identified that. So in the creation process and all of the stuff, I want you guys to know, I didn't make any of this stuff up. This is not my doing. This is stuff that I have observed and I've learned from working with ad agencies for the last probably 30 years. This is a process. Everything I'm teaching you in this ACT protocol is the process that ad agencies use for their big customers, their big clients, people that are paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this for them. So the information and the learning that you guys are going to get from this is, it would cost you a tremendous amount if you went to an ad agency and they did this for you and you still wouldn't know how they did it. So you'd pay all that money and you would walk away with something that worked, but you wouldn't know how they did it, so you wouldn't be able to repeat it without going back to them and paying them again. So you're really getting the inner workings of how they do this, and you can do it for yourself. And you can do this with little to no budget. You don't have to have money to fund this, outside of the traffic part. When you get into driving traffic, you can pay to have traffic driven to your site. So it does take some money at that point, but you don't even have to do that. There's all kinds of grassroots efforts once you get this thing built properly that you can make money with this thing without having a huge budget or any budget at all, really. So that's the cool part. This totally levels the playing field for the little guys. And that's the really cool piece for me, is that I was able to do that. So here's the creation process. The first thing, and again, this goes in this order. If you do these things out of sequence, it won't work. It might work in certain instances, but it's not a repeatable process. Like, let's say we jump over here to the irresistible offer. Let's say you create a phenomenal offer. You have an irresistible offer and you just throw that out. It's like making a marriage proposal on the first date. You haven't earned it. You haven't earned the right to make that irresistible offer yet. So what's going to happen? You're going to get a no. You're going to get rejection. It might be the right thing, but it's not in the right sequence and order of time. It's very similar. It's funny how this relates to dating and warfare. Those two things, like you have love and war, and they're totally opposite ends of the spectrum, but the natural process and the order of how they're both done is almost the identical thing here. It's crazy how that common natural thread just goes through everything. And it's really what I've boiled it down to is communication. It's how you communicate. If you don't know how to communicate with a prospect, then you're going to struggle and fail. If you don't know how to communicate with somebody you're attracted to, you're going to struggle and fail. If you can't communicate with your troops and get them to understand the plan on the battlefield, they're going to fail. So there's a lot of commonality here. And, for whatever that's worth, I just think it's an interesting thing. And I point it out, and a lot of people go, that's really cool. But you have to do the stuff in order. And grabbing attention, this is the big thing. If you can't grab attention, you can't move on to the next round. This is like a game, and you can't move on. You can't advance. And the grab attention thing, we call it, the process, we call it a big idea. And I didn't make that up. That came out of the ad agencies in the 1950s. That was a process used by David Ogilvy. And as far as I could tell, he was the first one to really use it methodically. And even he didn't know what it was. He knew how to do it, but he didn't know how to explain it. He just called it the big idea. I've actually broken it down like a recipe. So you can bake this cake anytime you want, and it'll come out the same every time. But he called it the big idea, and he was interviewed by a woman, back in the 50s, and she asked him, the big question that she asked him was, how is it every ad campaign you touch just literally turns to gold? And he equated it to the big idea. He said, if an ad campaign does not have a big idea, it's going to pass like a ship in the night. And, he used a lot of metaphors and, riddles and things when he spoke. And what that means, it's going to pass like a ship in the night, means it's not going to get seen. You can't see a ship at night out on the horizon. It just passes and you don't even know it was there. So you don't want your marketing campaign to pass like a ship in the night. You want it to be seen. If it's not seen, you're not going to work. So that's the grab attention piece. And that's the whole big idea formula on the front end of the thing. Really an important piece. If you don't get that, the rest, again, you're going to struggle. So next thing, once you grab their attention, now your next job is, how do you create demand and desire for what you're offering? If you can't do that, you're not going to hold their attention. It's one thing to grab their attention, but now you have to hold it. That's your next job in the process, is how do you hold their attention? The best way to do this is in the form of education. They call it education-based marketing. You're basically teaching the person by communicating with them. You're communicating your value. You're communicating how it works, what it's going to do for them, how they're going to benefit from it. If you're communicating those things, then they can actually start to see the outcome, and they know that it's going to work. Because that's the next thing, is eliminating objections. Every objection is based on a belief. And one of the biggest beliefs that most people will have, and the reason they don't buy your stuff, is they don't believe it. And there could be a great number of reasons why they don't believe it. The biggest one, I think, is they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe they can get the outcome, no matter how good your product is. Maybe they've tried it before. Maybe they've failed. Maybe their brother tried it. Maybe their sister tried it. Maybe everyone they know tried to get this outcome. Like weight loss is a perfect example. How many people have tried weight loss and failed? So that creates a pretty good belief of, oh, yeah, I'm not buying that. That's not going to work. I've tried everything. That's not going to work. That is a belief. That belief creates an objection. And in many cases, that'll be a hidden objection. It's not something they're going to say to you. They're not going to say, I don't believe your product works. They're not going to say that. But it's in the back of their mind. And it's the thing that's going to keep them from buying from you. So that create demand and desire and eliminating objections, those two are the two pieces that can almost kind of blend together. They're the two. If you were going to take two and tie them together, that would be the two I would put together. You can do those at the same time. In fact, a lot of this information too, you're going to get an analysis. You're going to figure out, one of the things in analysis is figuring out, what does your prospect believe in? When I go into the avatar training, the deep dive avatar training, that's what we're looking for. We're going to find their beliefs. Because if we don't know their beliefs when we get to creation, how will we ever eliminate their objections? You know, you have to understand all that stuff. That's why the analysis process is so important. And then, now that you've done the first three things, you've grabbed their attention, you've created demand and desire for what you offer, you've eliminated the objections, now's the perfect time to make that offer. Now you're making a marriage proposal that makes sense. The person actually wants to get married, and they've decided they want to marry you. So now you break out the ring, right? It's the appropriate thing at the appropriate time. And it's like, when you get this stuff right, this is going to change your business forever. And just the fact that you know how to think about this stuff is going to change the way you look at business forever. It's going to change the way you communicate forever. It's going to change everything about everything that you do for the better forever. So this is a great process to learn. Now, once you get that done, now you basically have a marketing campaign sitting there in front of you. Now is the time for traffic. If you start doing traffic before you get those first two steps done, it's going to be really expensive. Whether it costs you money or time, both of those things are expensive. You know, money you can always make more, but you can't make more time. So time is really valuable. So if you're spending time and money driving traffic to a marketing campaign that's not ready to come out, you're wasting it. You're wasting that time and that money, those resources. There's a lot of different places that you can get traffic. And again, this too rolls back to the analysis. What kind of traffic is the right traffic for this particular avatar, right? If you're doing search, a lot of people just focus on search. They think, oh, I can just get on search engines and I'm going to get rich. If the person doesn't know to search for the solution, if they don't know to search for what you're offering, search is worthless. Search is a bad traffic point. You know, search, if somebody knows what they're looking for and they're actively seeking it, then search is probably the best place you could possibly be. But you'll see in the training, when you're going through the avatar thing and you're going through the analysis, you'll find that a lot of the people that you're going to be trying to sell to are unaware. Sometimes they're completely unaware of the problem. Sometimes they're unaware that there's a solution. If they're aware of the solution, they're unaware of your solution. So they don't know to look for it. So if you're spending your time and your money on search and they're unaware, you're wasting it. If they're not on social media, there's a lot of people that are not on social media, believe it or not. And if you're focusing all your efforts there, or the person that you're targeting, they're not there for business, you know, social media is just that, it's social. Yes, you can do a tremendous amount of business if you're on the right platform. Like Alignable is a perfect platform for business owners. They're there to do business. They're there looking for solutions. But you go to Facebook, you know, Facebook, people are on there, you know, looking at what their family and friends are doing. and you show up with an ad in front of them when they're not in that mode, and you're basically trying to disrupt. And if you're doing disruptive advertising, you better be really, really good. Otherwise, you're just going to irritate them. And that's the last thing you want to do, is irritate your prospects, right? It's like I equate this to everything that happens online happens first in the real world, and it's converted, it's digitized. So what that process is, you showing up in social media when they're friends and family oriented, and you show up with an offer, you're like the guy that comes to a social gathering at somebody's house and breaks out the table and puts your Tupperware on it and starts making a Tupperware presentation to people that are there to have fun. They're like, you know, where'd you get this guy? Get him out of here. You don't want to be that guy or that gal. So you gotta be in the right place at the right time with this. There's paid advertising modes of all different varieties. And again, you need to figure out where your person is so you get the right traffic. There's also referral traffic. I get a lot of referral traffic. Referral traffic can be free. It can also be incentivized with money. And I always incentivize my referral traffic. I have affiliate programs. So when somebody sends me a customer, I always send them a gift in the form of cash. They love that. The best gift on the planet. For most people, they love cash. So referrals, incentivized referrals, is a great way to go. It's almost like creating an army of salespeople. Any one person doesn't have to send you a lot of referrals. If you can get an army of people to just send you one referral a year, you'll have more business than you know what to do with. Again, you don't have to put money out of pocket to get that business. You get the business and then you share some of the profit, right? So you can build and you can scale a pretty good sized business without having money up front. You just have to be creative and you have to have a process. So that's in a nutshell, that's kind of the overview of what ACT is. The ACT method, protocol, whatever you want to call it. It came right out of the ad agencies. It's how they do it. And I've gone through in the training, there's a ton of videos. There's videos on each step of the process. And I actually break down formulas. Like when it comes to the elimination of objections, I have a formula for that. I found it by tracking back through history almost 300 years. And I found that Benjamin Franklin created it. Or I don't know if he created it or if he saw it or whatever, but he's the first place I could ever find it being used. And it's absolutely brilliant. It's a formula to take a belief and change it. Remember I said every belief creates an objection, or every objection is based on a belief. If there's a belief in the way of you making a sale, and you have the magical power to invert that belief, now what's the belief? The belief is they want to buy your product, not that they don't want to buy your product. So the formula for that, it's, and again, you know, there's a lot more in the lessons and stuff, and we can go over this stuff on the weekly calls. And, you know, that's the cool thing. I'm here for you every week, every step of the way. So no matter what step of the process you're in, you can always come on the call and ask me questions and get feedback and throw out ideas and all that stuff. So anyway, you guys want the formula for it? It's 3 steps. It's claim, proof, benefit. So you make a claim contrary to the belief. You have to understand what the belief is. If they believe they can't do it, you make a claim that is absolutely opposite. If you think that their belief is I can't do it, your claim should be you can do this. I know you think you can't, but you can absolutely do this. That's your claim. Now, that's just hearsay. If you leave it just at that, that's what most people do. and it doesn't work. It's like water off a duck that goes in one ear and out the other, because it's just you saying it, and it's argumentative. If they believe they can't, you believe they can, you're at a standoff. It's a he said, she said. It's ineffective. But as soon as you say the claim, as soon as you make that claim, you immediately step out of the way and you follow it up with proof. It's claim, proof, benefit. So the proof should be a third party saying the same thing that's not you, and it's a reputable entity saying it. You know, it's proof, it's validation. It's like third party validation. And it has to be from a credible source. It has to be something that is seen as real and authoritative. You know, like you can use all kinds of proof points. One thing is social proof. If you don't have proof points like out of the media or whatever, you can use social proof, like Crest toothpaste. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest. That's proof. That's not me saying Crest is the best, right? Because you might believe in Colgate. But when I say 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest, I'm following that up with proof of dentists are recommending this. It's better than Colgate. If it wasn't, they would recommend Colgate, right? It's not me saying Colgate is the best. It's the dentists. They're the authority, right? You guys have seen this stuff. And once you know what to look for, you're going to see it everywhere in advertising. Claim, proof, benefit. You know, once you throw the proof out, what you've now done is you've taken their belief, you've disproven it, and you've replaced it with a new belief. So what they just believed in has changed, because most people, well, let me change this. Most sane people won't argue a fact. And what you did was you just turned a belief into, you know, one belief, one direction into a different direction based on a fact. Most people won't argue a fact because it'll make them look foolish. Like, what would you say? Those dentists don't recommend Crest. Really? When, you know, it's an indisputable fact when you say 4 out of 5 dentists polled recommended Crest, right? You can't dispute that. They recommended it, so it's a fact. So most sane people won't argue a fact. So now that you've eliminated the objection, you've actually turned it in your favor, and now they want the Crest. Now you attach it back to the benefits of the pearly white teeth. This is the way you get them. This is the delivery mechanism to get what you want. That's the benefit. So it's claim, proof, benefit. That's the formula to eliminate any objection. And I track that all the way back through history to Benjamin Franklin. He was the first place I ever saw it used. And it got him in the Marketers Hall of Fame. If you look up, you go to Google and you look up Marketers Hall of Fame, Benjamin Franklin, you'll see the ad campaign where he is trying to sell a wood-burning stove. And he used that claim, proof, benefit formula to sell his wood-burning stove. Now, he admitted, get this, he admitted that his product was the worst on the market, yet he outsold the competitors like they weren't even there because of that formula. And that's what I believe, that's probably what got him in the Marketers Hall of Fame. He was a magnificent communicator. So, and he, I don't know if he knew the formula, he knew how to use it. A lot of people know how to do things, but they don't know how to teach things. They don't know how to break it down and turn it into a system that's repeatable. You know, like a great baker can bake a cake without a recipe. And if you ask them what the recipe is, well, I don't know, I just throw this stuff together. Well, you can't reproduce that, right? You can't bake that same cake if you don't have the recipe. So that's what I've done here is I've given you all the recipes for how to bake this cake. And it's pretty well foolproof. So anyway, that is the overview of ACT. I want to go into another thing now here. You guys have a workbook, and the workbook is a little misunderstood from people I know that have gone through in the past. They think they have to follow this thing to the T, and that's not what it's made for. It's made for a guideline. There's 88 pages to this thing. It's a placeholder for you to make notes of basically as you're going through analysis. It's a place for you, everything you learn about the analysis process is to put it down in this workbook. So when you get to creation, you'll have all the blanks filled in. You'll be able to go back to this and reference this workbook and find all the answers to everything you want to know. If you're going to hire a copywriter, this is all the stuff they need to write phenomenal copy for you. If you don't have this to give them, they're going to write garbage copy for you, and it's going to cost you the same amount, right? You're going to put money out to have somebody do something for you, and you're giving them garbage in, garbage out. This will make the difference. So there's a lot of stuff to this. Let me get down to, there's places for everything in here. In this one, this power of freedom, this is something I want to cover too, but let me just pop past this. We'll come back to it. Like analysis. You've got all these different things in here. It doesn't mean that they all apply to everyone's business. Like for instance, there's a section in here that says, you know, are they widowed? If they're widowed, is it recent? How fresh is it? That may not make any difference in your market. Your profitable avatar might not have anything to do with widows, but if it does, these questions are going to be very important. So anything that doesn't apply, just ignore it, just skip over it. And also know that you might have an avatar that I didn't think of. You might have something that is really pertinent to your communication with your avatar, your group, and just don't be afraid to just fill it in here. You know, wherever it comes appropriate. There's all kinds of places for you to make notes here. You know, there's everything I could think of at the time when I did this. So don't think you have to fill it all out. Don't get overwhelmed with that. It's a guide. You know, it's like in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's not rules, it's a guide. So it's to hopefully make it easier for you. You know, like you've got here the demographics, you know, age, gender, lifestyle, relationship status. Are they married? Are they not? Sometimes it won't matter. If it doesn't matter, just skip it. Just leave it blank, or write something in that you know does matter that I missed. Just use it as a guide. You know, household income. Household income almost always matters, because you want to make sure, like that's one of the formulas I have when you're creating or when you're identifying your profitable market segments. Them having the money to purchase your product is a key element in that decision. So household income matters. Education may or may not. Them being not educated might be the exact person you're looking for. And the reason that it's important that you keep all this stuff top of mind is when you start writing your copy. When you start thinking of your sales process and how you're going to communicate with this person, believe me, all this stuff is going to count. All this stuff is going to matter. If you're selling to people in the South and they've got a Southern drawl and you're doing videos and you don't have that Southern drawl, you're going to be looked at as an outsider. Seriously, it's to that level. People want to work with like people. If you're not like them, you need to be a chameleon. You need to figure out who you're talking to, and you need to be a chameleon. You need to mirror them. So it's really important you understand all this stuff. And I know this might be like seeming to get really deep, but I'm getting deep to make you successful. And that's what it takes. It takes going deep. If you want to just have a mediocre outcome and in a small business and you just want to get by, you probably don't need any of this. You can probably do that on your own. But if you want to scale, if you want to go big, if you want to be very successful and have this stuff be easy, you're going to need to go deep at least once to get it right. And you can automate. The cool thing is you can automate everything about this. So you only have to do the hard work once. And then you can create a marketing campaign that will work hard so you don't have to. So I want to get that out. And that brings me to the next thing and why I added this in. Some people questioned this and wondered why I added this in, and it's the freedom formula. Let's see. So when I first created the ACT program, I knew it intuitively how much work it was going to be, but I didn't put enough emphasis on that and the outcome of it and what it was actually going to do for you. And a lot of people get into it. And this, I've been doing this for years. So going back to the beginning, a lot of people looked at it and they threw in the towel. They just wouldn't do the work. And it was because I talked to somebody that was in the NLP field. And NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and they're like master communicators. And they said the reason that you're struggling with this is you haven't attached the outcome of why they're going to do all this work. They can't see it. If somebody has not experienced freedom, they can't see it. They can't feel it. They can't understand it. And they think it's outside of their possibility. So until you really can see what you want, you probably won't fight to get it. And for me, freedom is the one thing, it's my core element I will absolutely fight to the death for, is freedom. Freedom of time and money. It takes both. You can't just have a lot of money. If you have a lot of money and you're really busy and you don't have any time, that's not freedom. A business, when you create a business, there's two kinds of businesses you can create. You can create a freedom business that does create freedom of time for you, or you can create a job for yourself. And that's what most people have done. Most people, they got out of the day job and they created a home business or, any kind of business. But what really happened was they just created a job for themselves. They have to get up, they have to work every day, just like they did in the job. And in most cases, they have to work longer hours. In some cases, they make less money. And in almost every case, they don't have any benefits or time off or paid vacations or anything like that. And they call that a business. That's not really what I call a business. It's just a job. You created a job for yourself, and that's great. That might be what you wanted. You maybe just didn't want to answer to a boss, and that's totally cool. But it's not a freedom business. You're kidding yourself if you think it is. A freedom business, like, ask yourself, could I go away? Could I leave the office for a week and come back and not have the tires fall off the wagon? Would this run without you? Could you leave for a week and just totally unwind and come back and not have the wheels off the wagon? If you can't, then it's not a freedom business. And I'm not talking about like, maybe something comes up. Things always come up, but that freedom business runs whether you're there or not. If you're doing like time for dollars, that's it's a job wrapped in a business wrapper. And I can tell you, because I've had those. When I was a commercial photographer, I made a lot of money. It was kind of the perfect thing because I made a lot of money and I didn't have to work a lot of hours. So I had a lot of time and I had a lot of money. That was, to me, freedom. I had created the closest thing I could get to a freedom job that I knew. But it wouldn't run without me. If I wasn't working, I wasn't making money. I did make plenty of money that I didn't have to work all the time, and I could go play and do whatever I wanted. So it was great. But if something happened and I physically couldn't do the work, that business was over. It was done. So it's not a business unless it can literally run without you. So whatever you do, like if you can digitize it to where it continues to make the money, whether you're there or not. The first true freedom business I ever had was when I moved from commercial photography into internet, web development and web hosting. And I started developing websites, and I ran the hosting company. So we had money coming in for the hosting of all the websites. And I worked real hard for a couple of years. And then at the end of that couple of years, I realized for the first time in my life, wow, if I don't work, this money still keeps coming in. It was really a cool awakening when I realized that. And I'll never forget, my wife and I had never been on a cruise. And because that was just like, not part of the program, I couldn't be away. But now I could. And I said, hey, what are you doing next week? There's a deal here on this cruise. And she's like, well, nothing. I'm like, well, let's do it. And she asked me, she goes, can we do that? Can we afford that? And I'm like, for this price, you can't afford not to. You can't feed me for this price. We're going to lose money if we stay home. And it was like, we spent the week on the cruise ship. I bought the internet package so I could be in communication if anybody had a problem. And, there's always problems, but I was still out on a cruise ship for a week. The tires didn't come off, and I made the same amount of money on that cruise ship as I would have if I was sitting at home behind my desk. And that was a game changer. We spent 5 weeks that year on cruise ships. It was like, this is really cool. And I got to tell you, it allows you to be that freedom of your mind, getting your mind and your sanity back. That made me really creative of, oh my God, I love this. What else can I do to create more of this? And that's when I got into creating courses. I created how to teach people how to do what I do. And that can be sold over and over and over. Once that course is created, membership sites, all kinds of stuff you can do where you do the work once and it pays you forever. So you might change your idea of business once you get your head wrapped around these concepts. But this freedom formula, this is back to why I created this. Most people that haven't experienced that type of freedom, they can't imagine that it really exists. They can't imagine that they can actually have whatever they want in life. And this is a big hurdle that I created this to help you get over. This is like a speed bump in your mind. If you can't imagine having the money to have the life that you want, you probably are never going to get it. It's a serious block. It's a serious roadblock. So what the freedom formula is, you have to just suspend all of your disbelief for a few minutes here to play this game. Think of it as a game. Suspend disbelief, and I'm going to wave a magic wand, and we're going to play imaginary times here. And I'm just going to ask you, what does your life look like? If money was not an object and time, you didn't have any commitments, what would your ideal life look like? Like, where would you live? What would you drive? What would you do for fun? All of that stuff. Like, and I'm talking everything, would you get massages twice a week? Would you have a live-in maid, that cooked meals for you? What kind of entertainment, would you go on cruises, travel, jewelry, possessions, all the stuff, what would that look like? If you had an unlimited budget, what would your life look like? You know, when you woke up in the morning, you know, what would you do? What would your day look like? How would you spend your time? And where would you spend it? You know, would you live in a castle? Would you, I don't think any of you are imagining living in a shack, right? You need, this is your opportunity to dream big. And basically everything you need to put a cost down. Just break it into what would that cost per month? And you're trying to just come up with a figure. You know, how much per month would you spend on entertainment? How much on travel? How much on pampering? How much on splurging? How much on clothes, boats, vehicles, homes? Just throw numbers down there. And it's okay if they're outrageous. They should be. I want them to be. This is not about how you live a mediocre life. This is how you live the life of your dreams. You've got to be able to imagine it. You've got to understand how much it costs. Even though you might not believe it's possible, I'm going to show you, I'm going to show your brain how it is possible, and I'm going to eliminate that objection. So that's the first thing you do, is you got to dream big here. You put down everything you want. You might come up with, you know, my God, you know, my ideal life costs $100,000 a month. That's okay. Just put it down there and come up with that figure. You know, you've got all kinds of stuff. And again, I put stuff down here just off the top of my head, what all is involved in, you know, the cost of your life. You might have all kinds of other things here. You might be into horses. You might be into, you know, whatever. Doesn't matter. Just put it down, put a monthly cost to it, and come up with the figure. This is what it costs to fuel my ideal life. If I could live that life, here's what it would cost me, right? That's job number one. Figure out what the ideal life costs you. Next is you go to what you have to offer in your business. What is it that you're selling? And in anything, there's always a cost to produce whatever you're selling. You know, there's advertising, you know, it's how much does your sales process cost, all of that. If this is your time costs you. So you have to put down the cost. So what's your selling price? What's your cost of sales? And that will give you your total profit. So how much profit is in each one of these things? I don't care if it's a widget or it's a consultation or whatever it is. You need to have the profit for each sale. And in some cases, you know, you might have a second product or a third product or whatever. But what I want you to do is come up with, to make it easy, try and just make it one. I've got this widget, you know, I sell it for this amount and there's this much profit in it. So I have a profit number. If you've got two, just divide them in, like take the profit of both, divide by 2 and get an average, because we want one number here. So we've got your ideal cost of your life, and now we've got the total profit for every sale. And then what we do, you put the number here, this is the cost for your ideal life, and then you divide that by the profit for units sold. And now you know how many you've got to move to live that life. Right? Now your brain is starting to connect this of, oh my God, I could do that. That could be real. It's not some imaginary thing. It's just math. All I have to do is sell that many units. And what do you think I built the ACT program for? To figure out how you sell that many units. Now, all of a sudden, that pie in the sky is reality. And the only problem to the equation is, how do I sell that many units? It may also expose another problem. If you're selling time for dollars, you might not be able to get there because you don't have that much time to sell. That is a fundamental business problem. At that point, you might look at this and say, how do I build a freedom business? How do I get out of what I did and move into what I'm going to do so I can live this lifestyle. Like when I look back over time of the businesses that I've been in over my life, there's none of them that I would go back to. Like even the photography thing, I did special effects photography. I started that business in 1985 and I made $3,500 a day plus expenses. That was a lot of money in 1985. That was like the dream job for me, the dream business. People were paying me $3,500 a day to do special effects photography for them. And, I could work one day a week and I was just, like, for lack of a better word, like a pig in shit. But looking back on it, there's no way I would go back to that. Even for that high dollar figure, it was taking too much of my time. My time is the most valuable asset that I have. I only have so much of it. So the money, you can figure out how to make all the money you want with as little time expenditure as possible. Not saying you don't have to work hard up front. Doing the ACT program is going to be hard work. You're going to have to put in the time to get that marketing campaign in place so you can build a campaign that will sell this volume of units so you can live that life. But now all of a sudden you have attached what you really want. I mean, when you start looking and visualizing that lifestyle, you're going to really want that. And this is going to take the disbelief off the table that you can't have it because it's pie in the sky. It's not. It's just simple math. It's how do I figure out something that has X amount of profit that I can move X amount of units to make that number. That's just simple math. And you might not have a current business model that is capable of it. That's perfectly okay. It gives you the hope now that you can create one. And now you know what to look for. You look for active business models that will fit what you want in your lifestyle or the lifestyle that you want. So that's, and again, I put freedom formula even before the analysis. If you look at the lesson plan, the way it's laid out, freedom formula is first. I want you to get a good picture of why you're doing this. And then you'll start to think, like the questions that you ask yourself will determine your outcome. If you ask yourself, why can I not do this? Your subconscious will go to work overtime, figuring out every reason on the planet that you can't do it. If you ask a similar question of what do I have to do to make this happen? Now you've empowered your subconscious to go to work to answer every possible reason on the planet or everything that you need to do to make it happen. There is a big difference. So ask yourself the right questions, not the wrong questions. Once you get it in your head and you know what it looks like, you know what you want, you know what it looks like, start asking yourself the questions of how do I get that? What do I have to do? Maybe I have to have a product that's more profitable. Maybe I have to serve a different market. Maybe I have to go back to segmentation and rethink that. Maybe I have to look at my product offering and rethink that. But you can do it. You just have to ask yourself the right questions of how. And when in my world and with the resources available to me, with my knowledge base, with everything that's available to me, how do I do that? How do I move enough units to make enough profit to live that life? That's what every waking hour of every day should be dedicated to. All right. So now there's another thing I wanted to show you. This is in one of the lesson plans. And this again goes back to your ideal client and the way you think about business. And this literally, this lesson piece here could change everything about your life. And what I did was I split up, this is based on the Pareto principle of the 80-20 rule. If you have 80% of your clients are what I call problem clients, they're not highly profitable, and you only have 20% of your clients that are your ideal clients, and they are profitable. Over here, the numbers reverse out. 80% of your money is coming from this little 20% sliver of the pie. 20%, only 20% of your total income is coming from 80% of the pains in your ass. Right? That's what a lot of people's business looks like. So you've got ideal client, problem client, 80-20. This is what your business is probably doing. Now, if we take just a small business, $100,000 annual income, and you're putting in 40 hours a week, we can break this down and I can tell you how much you're making. So you're spending on those problem clients, you're spending 128 hours per month making $13 an hour. That's what this looks like. You're spending 32 hours a month making $208 an hour. Right? People don't think about this, but when you see it visually down on paper, you're like, holy shit, what am I doing? I'm crazy. I'm working my butt off and I'm going in backwards. You know, this is important that you really think about the numbers. It's all simple math. This is not like, you don't have to have a degree to understand this. And you have to get it into your perspective though, so you know what's happening. You know what you're doing. You know why you're working so hard and not making any money. Once you know that and you acknowledge it and you understand it, then you can go to work and change it. Right? So again, this is $100,000 a year. You're getting $20,000 at $13 an hour, and you're getting $80,000 at $208 an hour. Which one sounds good? Right? So next slide. This is if you took 20% and you replaced them. If you took 20% of those bad clients and you replace them, and now you've got 40% of ideal customers, let's look at what that does. Now you're spending only 96 hours a month at the $13 an hour, but you're spending 64 hours a month at the $208. You just gave yourself a $75,000 a year raise. Same amount of time, same amount of customers, but you just increased your $100,000 to $175,000. Simple math. Right? Here it is based on a $400,000 annual income. You know, you got $80,000. You're spending 128 hours a month to make 80 grand when you're only spending 32 hours a month to make 320 grand. That's crazy. If you can get your business up to $400,000 a year, why don't you reclaim these 128 hours a month for whatever you want to do with them and throw these guys out the window? They're not worth it, even at $52 an hour. Yeah. Here's what happens when you replace 20% of your problem clients. The hours change and you added $300,000 a year. You went from 400,000 to 700,000. It's all scalable. The more you make, the more this factors in. And then I just talked about this. What happens if we just get rid of them and we don't replace them, right? So here's what would happen. You would regain, excuse me, you'd regain 32 hours or 20% of your time back, and it would only cost you 3%. You'd have to give up 3% of your income to do it, just by throwing those out the window. You'd lose $40,000, you'd make $640, yet you'd get all that time back. So anyway, it's definitely something that you guys want to think about. There's a lot of things that you can learn in the ACT program if you go through step by step and just hit every piece of it. You know, there's stuff in there that on a live call here like this, I can't even think to remember all the stuff. I'm just giving you kind of the broad strokes, the overview. But I hope you guys can see the importance and the value of the process, what it can do for you. This is the keys to the kingdom. It's like, you know, everybody wants business and they equate business to freedom. But then again, they don't understand the basic business model. They don't understand what freedom means. Freedom is time and money. And the money part is all just math. It really is. It's just simple math. It's not even advanced. You don't have to know algebra. You don't have to know calculus. You know, if you have one of these guys, little calculator, desk calculator, it's pretty simple. You don't even have to do the addition and subtraction. So, all right, well, that was kind of the base stuff that I wanted to cover with you guys today. Also, the way the program works. As you're going through the lessons, I do the weekly calls to answer any questions that you have during the process. I know today we spent, you know, a whole hour just kind of going over the broad strokes, just so it could lay the foundation for you. And I think this was probably even helpful for people that have been in the program for a year or more, to go back to the basics, go back to the foundation. Like, why are we here? What are we doing? You know, because sometimes you lose sight of that. You absolutely lose sight of what you're doing. You get knee deep into it and everything goes out the window. But it's really, really important that you figure out what it is that you want out of life, and you build a business that will supply that for you. That's why you want a business, right? If you didn't want a business, you'd just go back to a day job and all that freedom and hope would be out the window. Because that was something I learned from my dad very early on. We had this little boat, little wooden boat, and my dad worked. He never had a business. He worked every day of his life, well, up to his retirement age, but he went to work, you know, as I was growing up every day. He got on his suit, he got in the car, he went to work, he came home. And, you know, he made good money and we never wanted for anything. It wasn't like, you know, felt like we were missing out on anything. But one day we were going through Newport out to go fishing, and I was about probably 8 years old, and I finally had the contrast of the boat we were sitting in, the little wooden boat we were sitting in, versus all the big magnificent boats we were passing by. And I got that contrast, and I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, how come we don't have one of those? You know, what are we doing in this? And he said, we don't have those because I have a job. And I was like, I'm 8 years old. I'm like, I don't know what that means. That doesn't make sense to me. You mean you know, up to that point, I was like, I thought you had a job and you went to work so you could have nice stuff. And he's like, no. And then my next question was, are you telling me those people don't work? They don't have a job? And he said, no. He says they have businesses. And that nail sunk in so deep with me that I've never had a job ever. I've never even been able to get a job if I wanted one, because that cemented that fact in for me so early that it wasn't even possible. And there's a great story about that. When I turned 16, me and my brother had a successful business for like 2 years. We made a bunch of money. You know, as kids, we're making a ton of money. And I turned 16, all my friends turned 16, and they start getting jobs at fast food making $1.35 an hour. You know, I mean, I'm making hundreds of dollars a day and they're making $1.35 an hour. And yet I thought it looked cool and I wanted to be with my friends. So I went and I applied at every fast food joint within 10 miles of my house because I wanted to be with my friends. None of them would hire me. I could not get a job to save my life. And that cemented it in even further, that I'm not meant to have a job. So I never have. I've always had businesses. And I've had a lot of businesses and I've learned from every one of them. And like I said, of all the businesses I've had throughout the years, I would never go back to any of them. I would do what I do right now. I have created exactly what I wanted for my life. And I have one of those big boats that we passed by in Newport. So it's just proof in the pudding. My dad was right. You don't get one of those with a job. You get it with a business. It comes along with it. So, all right. I'm going to open it up now to questions. Anybody got any question?
Hey, John, how you doing?
Yeah, Randy, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Hey, I have a pretty big ask or need or whatever. I think I sent you a note. I'm hosting a 3-part masterclass series starting January 20th, and I've got to get the ad out, or the landing page, and get started, marketing it. And I've got all the guest speakers confirmed and so forth. But one of the problems I've seen, even in previous landing pages, when you're in Kartra, and I'm speaking directly to Kartra people.
Sure.
At the top of the screen in your page builder, you have 3 modes. You can see it in full screen, I guess laptop, no, not laptop.
Tablet,
and then iPhone or whatever phone. If you don't have a real phone, it would be something other than an iPhone. But anyhow, when you look at everything, but it looks great. Tablet looks great. iPhone looks great, or the phone view. But when I look at it on the laptop, full screen, there's usually some section of it that's off.
okay.
Like it's not whatever the word is, where the phone's websites kind of shrink and grow and all that.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that there's a place where you can go do that in settings, but I can't find it. I don't know where it's at.
Well, you were already in it, I'm pretty sure, because when you're in the view, you can edit in the view, right?
You can edit. Yeah, that's the edit screen.
Yeah, when you're in the view, you're editing for that view. So what I do is I always build in the desktop mode. Okay. So I have my screen in the desktop mode when I'm building the page.
Right.
And 99 out of 100 times it comes out right on the tablet and the mobile. I've never built on the mobile screen, but I could see how if you were doing that, when it went back up to the desktop, it might be all jacked up. So when you're building, build for the desktop first. And then if you have to make any adjustments, you can go into those modes and you can make your adjustments individually. But that's what you need to do. You need to go and make your edits in the desktop version.
Okay. All right. So make the edits there, save it, and then see what it looks like in tablet and mobile.
Yeah, because it automatically converts from the desktop to the tablet and the mobile. But I don't know that it goes backwards compatible. So it might get something really wonky when you go up to the desktop after building for the other version.
Okay, so that's probably
I'll probably what you did. Yeah, you probably built
because I'm thinking build it there because 90% or more of people are going to see it on their phones.
Yeah,
and maybe a few percent, like you said, the old 80-20 thing. It's going to be a very few people that see it at home on a computer because everyone's got the handheld device, no matter what it looks like.
Yeah, I think the builders, the guys that build the software, they're more concerned with downwards compatibility than upwards. So that it's made to build it
Okay.
in the desktop, and then they put in a lot of code and a lot of algorithm to convert it on the way down.
Okay, and Joyce is saying the same thing in the notes you just put up there. Okay,
Yeah.
so I was totally backwards. I was always in the small mode, building it, and then I'd go look at it, and of course the iPad mode, or whatever you want to call it, would look great. But then I'd go to the full screen, and a couple sections would look horrible. I'm like pulling my little hair out, like, what is going on? Okay, well, that makes sense. Well, thank you very much. Hi, Jeffrey. Hi, Scott. Hi, everybody. Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Woody.
Hey, everybody. Happy post-Thanksgiving.
We're all turkeyed out.
I'm telling you, your presentation was great. I've got my manual here. And I'm thinking, if you don't follow this, it costs you a lot of money.
It really does.
Experience is an expensive teacher.
I got to tell you, I may not have college degrees, but I spent a shitload on my education because I made all those mistakes.
It feels like the last 3 years. But anyway, I do have a question. I do have a website that my dad was a songwriter and producer, and I just want to share this with the group briefly. He wrote for Elvis, he wrote for Mad Magazine, and I just got control of the company from my brother, who wasn't doing anything. And I created this. I'm looking for the avatar. I'm looking through the analysis of having an online record shop, or and the way I would make money was with a membership site, and giving the swag away, all the mad rock and roll shit, all the Elvis shit that for the Elvis people. And so when I do so one thing is I'm getting my dad's site back, and I'm going to park it with you for hosting. But, I want to remodel the site.
Okay.
Because I don't want to pay for a new one. So I'll just fix that one up like a fixer house.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And we could do that, right? Once you're hosting it. And
yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
So, all right, because the lady wants to know where to send it to you. So maybe send me that information.
Okay. Do you know if it's a WordPress site or is it a regular HTML site?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. We'll probably have her contact me. And then
you can go to normanblagman.com and it'll pull up.
Oh, okay. Just send me an email with that, and I'll go see what it's built on, and then we'll.
I do have a question, though. I will send that to you, but I do have a question. There is a Mad Magazine site, and I've gone on it a couple of times, and I said I am the son of the Mad Music Man, and I've done a couple of those. And this site has 50,000 followers. But, hearing you today, I don't know if they all have money. I don't know if they have enough for a membership, maybe $80 lifetime membership, discount on swag, whatever. But I don't want to sell myself on this site. I don't want to get thrown off it. Like, I want to play my dad's music. That's 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but I don't think it's appropriate to do it on their site. So I got to get them to my site.
Yeah.
And I don't have that site yet, so I'm a little.
What what you probably should do in the analysis process is kind of jump over to the end piece where it's the competitor analysis and look at the competitors and see what they're doing and see if it even makes sense of if you want to participate in that. Like, how many people do they have? What are they paying for? What's their process? What's their, what's their business model? And it might be they might be just doing it for fun. They might be doing it for philanthropy. You never know. You gotta be careful chasing a dragon that you don't know how big he is. It might be some guy that is filthy rich out of his mind and, is doing this just for kicks. He might not need to make money on it. If you're going into it with the fact that, hey, I need to make money on this business venture, you need to understand and know that it's possible and it's probable and that you can do it. So you gotta understand the mechanics of the business.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I got today. Like, man, why do it if you ain't gonna make money, bro?
Exactly. Yeah. That's if the only answer for that is if you've got the money and you don't care and you're just doing it for fun and entertainment. That's where philanthropy comes in. If you want to be a philanthropist, that's great. It's awesome. There's a lot of enjoyment comes out of that. But you got to be healthy first. You got to make your business healthy first before you can share that wealth.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. All right. Anybody else? I probably chucked you guys full today.
I'm full.
You don't have anything to get anywhere to go with that.
I have a little question similar to Woody's, John. I wanted to know how to I need to get my URL active, even if it just says Alley Martial Art Coming Attractions and throw a few paintings up there. How would I do that?
Do you already have the domain purchased?
Mm-hmm.
If you already have the domain purchased, is it like at GoDaddy or something?
No, I bought it on NameCheap before I knew you sold them, like a goofball. I just didn't even know.
Okay.
So
I'm not familiar with NameCheap, but most of them have like a very inexpensive web presence that you can put up like a splash page and they have an editor where you can do that really easily. And then ultimately what I would recommend when you figure out what you want, you actually get your creation piece in play, then you can turn around and have somebody create you a WordPress site.
okay.
And then you'll have, a real functional framework for moving forward.
Right. That's what I'm working on. I'm actually going through ACT and figuring it all out, and then figuring out the design pieces. And, with me, I have to make the art, shoot the art, scan the art.
Yeah.
And then I have to figure out how to make it like attach like a company that, print on demand type of thing. So I'm trying to backtrack all the pieces. You know what I mean, John?
Yeah. Joyce just put in that she had used NameCheap before, but she likes GoDaddy. You can transfer your domain from NameCheap over to GoDaddy or, wherever you can transfer it. No problem. And
thank you, Joyce.
Like
Thanks,
she
John.
said, she likes using the GoDaddy. I guess they make it real easy. And I haven't used it myself personally, but I know that they have, those basic web builders that you can throw up a splash page and, have a coming.
Okay.
John, I don't want to step on your business of doing it, but we're putting together template web pages, dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And hosting is where I make my money, but you got to host it with us. Well, we're also giving you 5 email addresses. So, but I'm not going to steal from John, Allie. All right. But like, if something that you wanted to do in the in-between,
Right.
they're
Well,
templates, but we can make your templates fit to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was asking John, because, he's all our
Yeah, and I'm not,
He's
John,
our-
I'm
he's
not
our
doing it to
guy.
steal from your business.
No,
Mine's,
Yeah,
yeah, mine's before John. When they're past what I do, when they're past just using a template for cheap and small, I'm
Mhm.
moving them over to John because John, I get paid to send it to John.
Yeah, I hear, Roger that. Oh, Roger's not on.
But ours are templates. You can't come in and say, I want custom. You gotta pick our template. And you gotta
Right.
put-
Well,
gotta
you know,
put-
Tim,
yeah.
I might look at that, but with art, it either works or it
It
won't
may
work.
be
you
tough
know?
with art to do what you wanna do, but I have a template that may work for it. I don't know. We can talk.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everybody. So I got good news. So that's it's funny. I'm in, you know, you guys know, but some of you are new. I had to move to Casper, Wyoming to help my mom, but on a whim, I applied, that Casper has a Wyoming Women's Business Center, and they're going to help me with stuff. So that's good.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So hopefully, John, I'll finally put up a website instead of doing I'm like the epitome of what you are saying not to do. One commission at a time.
It's not that you need to put up a website, it's you need to figure out really your business model. You need to figure out who you're
Right.
selling to, the messaging, and then the website's pretty natural at that point because you're just taking a sales process and you're just basically putting it into digital format. You're digitizing,
Right.
you know?
Right. But you know, when you give this talk, I always like, bow my head in like, frustration because I want to channel my inner John Limbacher and create residual income. And I'm like, oh, how do I do it as an artist? And then I think maybe I have to, whatever. Then I go into the whole mind spiral of, like you say, maybe you have to look for a different business. And I've actually been thinking about all of that and looking at different ways to make money that are more like you, like residual and, evergreen. And because you're so smart, it makes total sense. I just can't figure out what I could do to do it.
I have a tremendous amount of income streams that I don't have websites for. Like I don't have a website for Kartra, but I recommend it at a certain point in my process when I'm teaching people how to automate. And I say, hey, if you need a good automation tool, here's Kartra. I introduce them. They go to the Kartra website, they buy it, and I make a commission.
Right.
I don't need a website for that because they have it already. I just
Yeah,
get
exactly.
the right amount, the right people at the right time and make the pass through, make the introduction.
Right. So anyway, thank you for just pointing me in the right direction on how to get just a landing page, that up, because that's going to help me a lot with
And
all the other.
speaking of that, you probably don't need Kartra yet, but if you were at the point where you had Kartra, you could make landing pages. Like, let's say you have 10 different domains, you could create a Kartra landing page and just, plunk it onto each one of those domains. You can make all you want. It makes it really simple to build landing pages.
Thank you for believing in me so much. Or I could hire your team and they could actually do it.
Oh, you can do it.
That's what I can do. I can make stained glass. I can make sculptures. I can make monuments. I cannot figure this shit out. So I'm hiring you. That's my first thing when I roll my next commission.
Yeah, you're creative. You can point and click. You know how to do it.
Yeah.
And the one that needs to believe in you is not me, it's you.
Yeah. That was the other piece. I was like, oh God. Yeah. I'm dreading the end of the year. The end of the year. What'd you do this year? What was from last year to this year? I'm like, oh, here it comes. It's coming.
See, we all believe in you. The only one here that doesn't is you. That's the problem.
Yes, that is the issue. But anyway, I'm chipping away at that, Johnny John.
All
So
right.
anyway, thank you for the pointing me in the right direction with that. So hopefully I could figure out how to just get a landing page up on NameCheap. And if I can, I'll text you and just move everything to your house.
So for those of you that have been in here for a while, was this helpful going back to the beginning?
Yeah, it was great. You did a really great job with like an intro summary. It was really good.
Because I don't think I've ever like taken you guys all the way back to the beginning.
I know.
Yeah, that was
it's
great. I'm actually excited because it will be good to go with everybody that's new. And, like because I've been trying to take myself back through the class, and you know how life is, everything I will speak from the eye. It's easy to get derailed, and my little time segment portion for act gets bumped, but my mom needs help or whatever, and then then I lose the time. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, cool. All right. Anybody else before we wrap up for the week? Hopefully everybody had a great Thanksgiving and you got all your Black Friday specials out and made some money. And
I spent money.
I didn't do anything. I didn't spend a dime this Black Friday, and I didn't actually make any offers either.
Wow.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Everybody's doing it. I don't want to do something everybody's doing.
Right.
So what I'm doing is I'm waiting. I'm going to do my year end. I'm going to do year end specials to get people ready for 2023 and take a different angle, a different big idea. My big idea is let's forget the past. Let's focus on the future.
Yeah, I love that big idea.
Yeah.
John, I have an opinion question for you in your internet world. This with our house, we're having problems getting equalized internet throughout it. All right. Have you used any of those mesh Wi-Fi systems?
I haven't used the mesh ones, but what I do in my house, we've got a house that is built out of lath and plaster, so it's not drywall. So it's like a cement house.
Yeah.
Mm.
So what I've done is I've run cabling to additional Wi-Fi routers. So like I have a Wi-Fi router in my living room. I've got one in Barb's office. Her office is like the main hub. The one that comes into the house is in there. But then I run a hard line into the living room, put another Wi-Fi router there. I've run another one out into the backyard. So when people are over and they're out in the backyard, they've got Wi-Fi access. And then I've got another one that is out. It's a hard line run directly to my computer out in my office.
Okay.
So,
Well, it sounds like that's what this mesh system is supposed to do, but I didn't know if you had any experience working with it. It sounds like it spreads your internet over, like in our case, it's spread over 7,500 square feet. That's, more than we need. That would cover our backyard and my garage as well.
Yeah. Well, it also depends on what it's got to go through too.
Because I don't want to tear stuff apart to run wires right now. That's what I'm trying not to do.
Yeah.
And I've got two houses to wire it into here. So
Tim, I tried the mesh system. It works as long as you don't have the kind of walls John has. If you have drywall and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have drywall. This house was built in '98. So
yeah, but the way John does it is really much better for your health anyway, to be hardwired, because it throws a lot of EMFs through your whole body and house and food and everything. So when I tear the place apart to put in the new kitchen living space, then I'll have walls open. I'll run wires everywhere. Yeah.
My condo had, I think it was $800 to $1,000 worth of wiring in the walls to do all that. But now I don't have that.
It's funny because just being in advertising, I learned the way companies can say, their, all their features, they actually, I'm talking about communication companies, like, all of our cell phones and all that. They do their connectivity time based on hard wiring, not the Wi-Fi. So it's pretty interesting. That's it's some kind of, they get away with it they know the loopholes. But anyway, all their performance is based on hardwire. So anyway, all right, that's all I got, people.
All right.
Thanks for your opinion on it. I just need an opinion on it. So I'm not sure what we're
John, could Oh, I'm sorry, Tim.
Go ahead, Woody. I'm done.
John, I have something going on, Mr. Wizard, that you might be able to help me with.
You always got something going on.
You know what? I'll tell you, I should be on The View with this question, but people are, I don't know how to say this, but when I have people come and work on my stuff, they're using like my computer, my Apple MacBook Pro, and then they're finding my pornography. And it's always so embarrassing, to have a, photo.
Does Michelle know you're sharing her pictures again?
And,
You.
and I really want to shield them from that, and myself, because they'll go, hey boss, another penis picture, so so how do we segregate our private stuff from our Kartra? I wouldn't want this going out on Kartra.
Well,
Hey, Woody, have you considered buying your employees their own computer?
No.
No,
Would it be?
but it's all linked up because we're on the same server.
Yeah, honestly, I thought of this, Woody, for you. Would it be as simple as doing a guest? You know how Mac, you can say, this is me,
profile.
a guest profile, but his photos, I made Woody separate them out years ago, but he's probably shot new and wonderful pictures since then. But
I got a phone with 3 cameras now,
yeah, I'll say, oy vey. All right, so
Well,
anyway.
all depending on who the pictures are of there, Woody. I mean, there's some people I wouldn't mind seeing. So I'm just saying, I'm a guy,
Listen, let's just call it selfies, Tim, if you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Everybody's seen that.
I mean, I'm
Exactly.
glad I haven't gotten sued by any of the great people that have come and worked here,
all
Oy
right.
vey.
Well,
Anyway.
I can see we've gone way off the rails now.
We have the
This is a
rails
whole
melted.
different act.
Yeah.
Tim. Oh
All
my
right.
God.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that this is probably a good place to close it off for the week.
Hey, the struggle's real. Oh, Joyce is one. Joyce, speak up. This is an unruly group. We're
Keep
the old
decorating
school.
those lights, everyone.
Yes.
You guys are too funny.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully
wait
we
a minute. And Roger and Michelle aren't even here.
I know. Joyce, you're in the
My
right place.
gurus.
You want to have some fun.
John's fault.
all my fault. Yep, I take credit.
Thank you, John.
All right, guys. Well, have a great week. We will be back on 11 o'clock next Thursday, as always, and look forward to seeing you and answering all your questions and keeping you on the rails.
Thank
Woody,
you.
Woody's a challenge to keep on the rails. Everybody else.
Rails? What rails? Bye,
Have a
everybody.
great week, everybody.
Great session, Johnny.
Bye-bye.
Bye.